Hey, what's up guys? Rolling Wolf here. Just want to get into some trade recaps from today, and it happened to be my best day ever, in terms of gains at least, and that's on top of my best week in terms of gains, so it's been a great week. But today I made about $19,000 today, which still kind of blows my mind, hasn't really sunk in. But to kind of do a quick recap, I was long PLSE, and it was kind of a bottom bounce type of play, and I've actually been watching PLSE all year, and I think it's Pulse Biosciences or something like that, but I played a bounce type play a couple months ago, I want to say, and so I am very familiar with it and kind of how it moves. It can move fast, it can be illiquid, and the spreads can get kind of nutty, but today there was some decent volume, and we'll get into that. But my big trade today was OPNT, and that was a short, and it was actually a much higher price stock, and I was overnight 1,500 shares. But that was actually my biggest gainer ever, and I made $13,000 on the short today, and I mean I'm very happy about it. But I'll get into that one as well. And lastly, MRTX was just kind of a small after hours type thing, on some news, and it wasn't really necessary to take, but I was feeling pretty good. So anyways, I'll get into the trades, and afterwards hopefully I'll be able to show you guys a live trading clip from today. I didn't think about it until I think I was halfway through the trade or so, but I did catch some of it, and I've been getting quite a few requests for that, so I'll try to squeeze some live trades in here soon. Anyways, we'll get right into the trades for you. So here's OPNT, and it's kind of a funny story that I'll try to tell quickly, but a good buddy of mine called me a couple days ago, well, an old high school friend, and he told me to take a look at the stock OPNT and tell me what he thought about it. And I get that kind of question quite often, don't really get into it with anyone, but I checked it out for him, and I'm like, whoa, it looks like a pump and dump. Looks exactly like a pump and dump. And to which he replied, how can it be a pump and dump? It's not a penny stock. And I said, it doesn't have to be a penny stock to be a pump and dump. And I said, it's not necessarily a pump and dump, but it sure looks like a pump and dump chart. Mind you, the chart looked like this at the time. Sorry, this is the daily chart. And it's up from the 5s and 6s in July to 52. And just over the past week and a half, it went from 20 to 52. So it's made a huge move, and not a lot of volume, but some decent volume. Anyways, long story short, my buddy bought it at $40, and he called me after this big red day, and he wanted to know what he should do. And I told him I'm not allowed to give him advice because I'm not a registered investment advisor. But if it were me, I would not feel too good about it, and I would not try to hold to break even, because that's what he wanted. And I told him most likely, if it were me and what I see further downside. Anyways, I was actually happy because this didn't hit my scanner because it was over $20, and my scans pretty much for the most part go up to $20. But it was on my radar for a short, and I was a little bummed I missed that first red day, but I was still, I mean, you can see it looks like there's some downside. I did some quick research. They first of all, they were OTC, I think a week and a half ago, which strengthened my thesis on this. But they do actually have a product that's FDA approved. It's a Narcan nasal spray, Narcan for opioid overdoses. So there's a market for it, and they're not, they don't have no products. They actually have some sort of substance, but still, I'm going to play the chart on this one, and that was kind of my decision. So I got short in here yesterday. It started going down, but kind of caught its legs, and I got short into a little pop, and I was short at 37, around 37.30, I want to say. And yesterday, I'll get into the we'll get into the minute chart for you quickly, but so here's the minute chart. Yesterday was really illiquid. It didn't do anything, and I mean, there was some range. It went from 35 to 38 and back and forth, and I wasn't really tempted to sell unless some volume came in and it really started bouncing hard. And I wasn't tempted to cover at 35 because I was kind of looking for a big picture move. But as you can see, it hardly did any volume yesterday, and I just held my short throughout the day because I had shorted somewhere in here in the morning. And then we'll get back to the daily chart. I was actually barely looking at the minute chart today. So here's the daily chart, and this is today. I was in right here yesterday, 37s. And once it cracked this low of day from the first red day, I did start locking in some profits. But because it was so illiquid, I was selling. I only had 1,500 shares. But because it was so illiquid, I was actually selling in 100 share chunks into each drop, basically. Let's go to the 5-minute chart for you quickly. Here is today. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful short today. And I was, I was calm, but I was very happy. And like I said, it was pretty illiquid, so I was only selling 100 share chunks throughout this move. I was kind of thinking of swinging some overnight, but I didn't want to get too greedy, and it was coming up to some support, it looked like, at least on the chart, in the 20s, between 20 and 24. So that was kind of my goal when I took the short yesterday, was to get try to get something down to this range, and then possibly look for a bounce even, and I'll still be looking for a bounce, but instead I ended up taking all my profits, taking the rest of my shares off. I think I had 300 left in the 24s, and I ended up covering the rest of that for a $13,000 gain. And it's my first big short, my first big win on a short. It's not necessarily your everyday pump and dump that you see, especially in the OTC markets and whatnot. But I mean, the chart, whether or not it's a pump and dump, it certainly was overextended. So it was kind of an easy call for me. Although I missed the first down day, clearly it was going to drop more. Had it not, I would have cut losses, but I didn't have to. And today was really, I don't want to say easy, but it was pretty easy to hold through this move. Like I said, when it started getting down into the $20 to $25 range was when I was thinking about taking the rest off. And that's what I did, and it actually would have made for a good dip buy down at 23. $3 or so of upside. We'll see what it does tomorrow and Monday. Any big panic might be a good dip buy still. So we'll see about that, but great trade there. Biggest trade ever, and it felt good, not gonna lie. I've been long biased in the past, but here's where the luck comes in, because if my friend would have not called me, I never would have known about this one. And that's why social media is kind of cool, and being transparent is kind of cool, because had I not been posting my trades and whatnot, I would have had no reason to speak with this guy. So that's OPNT, and we'll get into the next one quickly. PLSE is another good trade, and PLSE, Pulse Biosciences, they have gone on a crazy run this year from the 6s to a high of 40, and this whole run was stimulated by a billionaire investor buy, and he was buying up shares throughout this. And they're basically worthless, apparently. From the research I've done, they have some product, but it's it's like smoke and mirrors. So you had this big drop back in April, and then a really nice bounce from 17 to 40. And since then it's been coming down. This is the day I played back in July, and I remember actually I bought on the red day here as it was approaching this low from May, and I won't get into that trade, but I made some good money on a swing. I actually bought it in the low 20s, and so I think I sold it in the 24s and 25s. But that was it. The downtrend continued, and then there was some bad news a couple days ago about their product. They withdrew from their FDA application or something, and we had a huge drop from 20 to 10 over the last 3 days, or 50% drop. And I was interested in this day right here yesterday is when it actually came on my radar, and the reason for that was simple. It was pretty simple. Just the chart, just based on the fact that this is basically the last level until the next drop off down to the 6s. And so I was saying yesterday, I don't know if I said it in the chat or whatnot, but to a couple of buddies of mine, we were talking, and I told them that I was watching this for today. And sure enough, I woke up today and I was a little late to my computer. Actually, I placed this trade on my cell phone on the way to my office, which is a little risky, but this is the bounce into close yesterday, and here is this morning. This is a 1-minute chart today. We got a bounce up to 1160, or a nice morning spike to 1160, and then the pullback back to 1080. When 1080 held, and then it started to grind back up, kind of a mini ABCD here. I actually got long. I think I ended up with an 1133 average, and I grabbed 2,000 shares, not too many. And it was really strong rest of the day, basically. I sold some at 13. I forget what my average ended up being, but I made about $5,000 on this one. And it was kind of like a cherry on top today. It was I don't have too many details or lessons about this, but basically it's a play that I like. I like looking at stocks where other people aren't necessarily looking. So I do look at the top percent gainers, but I also like to keep track of runners and watch them as they hit lows, and watch when news comes out and see how they react. And because if they can run again. And it's also the fact that these stocks, they don't move straight up or down. They have to bounce eventually, for the most part, not all of them. But I'm looking, a lot of times I'm looking for kind of unconventional plays, not necessarily just what everyone's playing, because there's a lot of opportunity in the markets if you can find your niche. And this is one of my go-to plays, which is, you know, a bottoming, a stock that is getting beaten up badly, and maybe starts getting a little overextended to the downside, just like it can get overextended to the upside. So that was PLSE. And lastly, MRTX. I won't put too much time into this, but this was actually an after hours play. They came out with some positive phase 2 results, preliminary results, that is. It's not top line results or anything like that. And it had a huge spike on tiny volume from 5 to 11. And for me, I was thinking of getting a quick short in, and I was a little late to the party. I think I shorted it at 850 or so, and it was just 1,000 share, or yeah, it was 1,000 shares. I covered at 750 pretty quickly, and then I bought some, I think at 755 or 760, and sold it at around 8. Reason being is because while this was happening, I checked the filings for them, and their latest 10Q showed, to the best of my understanding, that there are millions of warrants with exercise price of 0.001. So for me, that it's a strong indicator for me not to be long tomorrow. And possibly if it gets overextended or there's a nice spike, possibly short it. But it will be the first green day, so I'm going to play the price action. We'll see what happens. Anyways, that was another 1100 or so to cap off the day, and it was a very successful day today. Anyways, I'll be watching OPNT tomorrow to see if there's further downside, to see if there's a bounce that I might be able to take advantage of. I'll be watching MRTX, and I'm personally not going to go long. That's just me, even though it has kind of a similar pattern as KURA did earlier this week. But because of the warrants, I'm not so bullish on it. So I'll be watching MRTX tomorrow as well. And PLSE, I'll be watching that as well for maybe a possible short. We'll see how it reacts though, and we'll see how the price action is in the morning. Tomorrow I'm heading to Orlando for the Trader Investor Conference, and it should be awesome. So if anyone's there, come say hi, and it'll be awesome meeting everyone, and it should be a great weekend. Anyways, everyone have a good one, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.